In your manifesto, you say that you want to raise the top tax rate for people earning over 150,000 quid a year to 60%. You want to raise a 2% tax each year on people who have value assets of more than £3 million. As someone tweeted in reaction to your manifesto, for a party that loves recycling, you're recycling the Labour manifesto of 1983, and we know how that ended.
Well, I think what we need to do is recycle the wealth in our society. We've got a huge level of inequality. The richest 1% keep getting richer and the rest of us are getting poorer. And organisations like the IMF and the World Bank say this is a real threat to our economic security. We need to rebalance our society. You know, at the other end, we're talking about making the minimum wage a living wage, raising that to £10 an hour by 2020. We're talking about making sure that the NHS is properly funded, that we have free social care for the over 65s.
But
we're ensuring that the vulnerable people, you know, are having their needs met in society, which they're not at the moment.
But organisations like the IFS and HMRC are saying that that increase in taxation for the richest is not going to result in more revenue. There's no evidence for that. When it's been tried in places like France, it has not worked, and it's just going to mean that the wealth creators of this country are going to head for the exit.
Well, I think what we've seen, you know, particularly at the moment, is particularly multinational companies are not paying their fair way at the moment. You think about companies that
no one disagrees with that.
Taking huge profits out of Britain, yet you think about they're relying on the roads that the rest of us are funding, the police service the rest of us are funding, the schools and hospitals. We really have to rebalance this economy. And I think, you know, things are changing globally. If you look at the situation, there's a new transparency being forced on tax havens, which is going to make it very much easier to enforce a wealth tax. But we're also seeing, you know, it is a real shift of people are saying this cannot continue. It's clear the status quo isn't sustainable.
But there's rebalancing and then there's punishing. The impression I get from your manifesto is that you hate the rich more than you love the planet. Is that true?
No, absolutely not.
Do you hate the rich?
No.
Sounds like it, though.
I'm sure many viewers of this program will know a excellent book called The Spirit Level. It says that in more equal societies, everybody, including the rich, are better off. So what we need is a society with the public services. We need a humane, decent, fair society where we've got, you know, free provision of early years education from age 1 upwards, where we have, you know, we're really dealing with the problems of our society, and everybody, rich and poor alike, will be better off.
So you have 1 MP, you might get 2 MPs in the next parliament. The Greens in Germany have 63 members of the Bundestag. They would think that a 60% top tax rate is bonkers.
Well,
have they got it wrong?
First of all, I think the Greens in Germany have, of course, the virtue of proportional representation. And I think one of the...
but they don't agree with your economic policies.
And one of the losers from this election, I think, and you've raised a very important issue here, which is that the first-past-the-post electoral system in this new age of multi-party politics in Britain looks utterly bankrupt. And, you know, that's something we're going to be talking very much about after the election. But our politics is not exactly the same politics as the German Greens.
The Green Party in Germany has been a very successful coalition partner with the Christian Democrats, with their Conservatives and the Social Democrats for years. They're in power. They're running stuff. Your policies here seem like pie in the sky.
Well, what we're offering here is a model of a different kind of Britain, a vision of a society in which everyone has access to the resources for a decent quality of life within the limits of our one planet. Okay. So one of the things we haven't talked about is how we tackle both economic and social issues together, which is we want to provide energy efficiency measures in 9 million homes over the course of this parliament, cutting fuel poverty in at least 2 million of those homes.
Here's another vision that you've outlined in your manifesto: to free all caged farm animals, chickens and pigs, out of the cages, roaming around freely. That's going to kill big farm business, isn't it?
Well, what we're talking about is factory farming, which is the kind of intensive agriculture that's imposing massive costs.
But it also makes eggs affordable. It makes pork affordable.
These are imposing massive externalised costs that we're all bearing. You know, we've had a lot, this government, indeed David Cameron, has rightly been identifying the problem of antibiotic resistance and the threat that presents to human health. You know, factory farming relies on the routine use of antibiotics. That's something that can't continue. We see particularly around Europe, real issues in terms of, you know, nitrogen pollution going into our rivers and seas. Those costs we're all bearing. We cannot continue to bear those costs. We're collectively, and this is part of this, we're living in Britain as though we had 3 planets. We only have 1 planet. We have to live within those limits.